Welcome to the debate. Today, we are standing at a very specific and a very loud intersection of culture and technology. We're looking at a genre that has historically defined itself by sweat, by feedback, and by human imperfection, rock and roll, and asking what happens when you inject it with the cold precision of, well, high-level computation. We are discussing the emergence of what's been termed l'architetto invisible, the invisible architect.
It is a striking title, isn't it? I mean, it sounds more like a Renaissance painting than a software protocol, but it points to a tension that I think is going to define the next decade of artistic creation. The specific subject matter we're grappling with today is the work of the artist MaXu, and, the critical discourse that has just erupted around his latest releases in post-grunge and alternative rock.
Exactly. And the central question we're debating is not just about one artist, but about the whole methodology. Can an artist maintain the soul of rock, that raw, visceral connection, when the very DNA of a track is arguably being meticulously engineered by neural networks? Or does the intrusion of this technology fundamentally strip the music of its humanity?
It is the question of our time. I mean, we're looking at sources that describe complex AI algorithms and advanced neural networks, essentially taking up residence in the recording studio. I'm here representing, well, the skeptic's view, or perhaps the purist's view, that there are some things, specifically the happy accidents and the vulnerability of a band in a room, that simply cannot be engineered.
And I am here to argue the counter proposition, that this technology represents a democratization of quality. I believe what we are seeing is not a replacement of the human, but a massive digital extension of the artist's will. This is about amplification, not automation.
Well, that is the battleground. Amplification or replacement. Let's get into it.
So let's start with the big picture. You and I both know the mythology of rock music. It is built on this image of the garage band, the dusty amps, the drummer counting off, the chaotic energy of people just trying to sync up in real time. It's a romantic image, and it's a powerful one. But I want to posit that the definition of a rock legend is evolving right before our eyes. We have to look past that romanticized idea.
That is a big ask. That mythology isn't just marketing. It's the whole ethos of the genre. It implies a shared struggle.
It was the ethos of the limitations of the genre. But if you look at the work of MaXu, as described in our material, we're seeing these groundbreaking anthems that are forged within complex AI algorithms. These aren't just tools for mixing. These are advanced neural networks capable of fusing raw sonic data into driving riffs. My argument is that this doesn't make the music less rock. In the case of MaXu, the technology is under the artist's total command. It's a tool of empowerment. It lets a single creator achieve a sonic density that used to require a 5-piece band and $1 million producer.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. You use the phrase total command, but the source material also uses the phrase hidden architects. And that chills me a little. When we talk about algorithms dissecting data to craft tracks, I have to ask, at what point is the musician's soul lost in the process? Rock and roll is often about the struggle to get the sound out. If technology is meticulously engineering the DNA of a song, aren't we just bypassing the struggle? And if you bypass the struggle, do you lose the art?
I'm not convinced by that, because it assumes the struggle has to be physical. It assumes the struggle must be, fighting with a tape machine or a drummer who is late.
The struggle is the friction of creation. It's the happy accident.
But the friction is still there. It has just moved. It has moved to the intellectual and the compositional level. The hidden architect isn't a ghostwriter. It's a structural engineer.
But engineering is the exact word that worries me. When you engineer the DNA of a track, you are optimizing it. You're smoothing out the rough edges. And my position is that the rough edges are the music. The vulnerability, the slight tempo drag, the crack in the voice, that is where the humanity lives. If we hand that over to a hidden architect, even if we are directing it, we are inviting a sterile perfection that is the absolute antithesis of the genre.
Okay, let's drill down into that, specifically this idea of the AI-assisted, human-directed framework. This is the core defense of the process described in the text regarding MaXu.
Right, and I want to challenge the boundaries of that direction.
Well, the material makes a very specific distinction. It argues that the AI is not the composer. It's likened to an infinite recording studio manipulated by a single individual. Think about what that means. A recording studio doesn't write the song. A recording studio provides the environment and the tools to capture the sound. In this model, the neural network is the room, the microphone, and the session musician, all strictly controlled by the artist.
But manipulated is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. The text mentions unseen intelligences. That implies agency. It implies decision-making. Look, let's treat the listeners like adults here. These models are trained on massive datasets of existing music. So when MaXu asks for a texture, the AI is pulling from a latent space of mathematical possibilities derived from other people's work.
Technically true, but isn't every human musician doing the same thing? Every guitarist is pulling from a latent space of every record they've ever heard.
But the human filters it through consciousness. The AI filters it through a probability curve. I mean, if I'm a director and I tell an actor to look sad, and they give a performance that breaks your heart, I didn't give that performance, they did. So if the artist tells the AI, give me a driving riff in the style of post-grunge, and the AI generates it, who wrote the riff? I question the burden of creativity here.
That is an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. The creativity lies in the curation and in the vision. The material explicitly states that this technology is used to amplify the artist's reach. It allows an independent creator, someone without the backing of a major label, to build a sonic cathedral. And that is a beautiful metaphor. A cathedral is complex, it's massive, awe-inspiring. Historically, you needed an army of masons to build one. Now, one architect can raise the structure.
But a cathedral built by a machine is different from one built by hand.
Is it? If the design, the intent, and the spiritual purpose are the same? I would argue that this removes the gatekeepers. It allows the artist to execute a vision that is cohesive, intense, and technically flawless without needing the budget that usually dictates who gets to be a rock star.
I come at it from a different way. You talk about the sonic cathedral, and I see the appeal of that scale, but let's look at the bricks of that cathedral, specifically the most human element of all, the voice. This is where I usually draw a line in the sand.
And this is where the MaXu case study is most fascinating.
Usually, when we talk about AI vocals, we are talking about a soulless synthesizer. We are talking about something that sounds uncanny, metallic, or just too perfect. It lacks the breath, the spit, the visceral reality of a human throat.
Agreed. But the source material is very specific here. The advocate for this technology points out that in MaXu's case, the AI is trained on the artist's actual voice. We are talking about his real timbre and natural range.
But it is still a simulation.
Is it? Or is it a digital extension? The material describes it as an extension of his own vocal cords. Imagine a singer who has the soul and the phrasing, but perhaps not the physical stamina to scream for 4 hours, or the production capability to layer 100 harmonies. The AI allows him to maintain absolute artistic integrity because the source material is him. It's not a deepfake of some famous celebrity. It is a model of the artist himself.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that entirely. Absolute artistic integrity is a very strong phrase. Yes, the data source is human. It is his timbre. But the execution of the note, the moment the sound actually happens, is generated. The listener is hearing a calculation based on a human, not the human act itself. And I have to ask, can the listener feel the difference? There's a micro-tension in a singer reaching for a high note that creates emotional resonance. If the AI simply places the note there based on the natural range, do we lose that tension?
That is a fair question, but let's look at the reception. The critical discourse suggests that the tracks retain human warmth. If the result is indistinguishable, or if the emotional impact is preserved, then does the mechanism matter? The technology allows for production possibilities that were previously unreachable for solo artists. It opens the door to that sonic cathedral of vocals we were just talking about.
That brings us to the content of that cathedral, the emotional weight. Because even if I am skeptical of the delivery method, I have to be fair to the material. I cannot just dismiss the themes present in MaXu's work.
No, you certainly can't. The analysis highlights themes of internal displacement, the fading of self, and the search for a near cosmic frequency of connection. I mean, these are heavy, substantial concepts.
They are. I admit, based on the material, the themes are anything but superficial. There's a struggle against isolation documented here, and deep reflections on the passage of time. You can feel a genuine emotional weight.
Which suggests the soul is still there.
It suggests the intent of soul is there. But here is my contradiction, and I am really struggling with it. I feel a sense of vulnerability in the lyrics and the composition, yet I know it was engineered. It is a strange dissonance. The artist is writing about the fading of self, while using a technology that literally fades the self into a dataset.
I see that irony, but I view it as a profound artistic statement. And more importantly, I would argue that because of these tools, the industrial filters are gone. Think about it. If you go to a major label with a concept album about internal displacement and cosmic frequencies, they might tell you to write a love song instead. They might polish the edges until the meaning is completely lost.
That is true. The industry is a machine of a different kind.
Exactly. The AI allows these profound concepts to be expressed exactly as the artist envisions them, without the interference of the music industry machinery. The struggle against isolation is communicated directly from the artist to the listener, facilitated by the AI, but not filtered by a marketing department.
That is a compelling argument. The idea that the AI is a clearer conduit than a record executive, I have to pause on that. It implies that the technology, for all its artificiality, might actually be more transparent than the traditional music business.
Transparency and presence. Which leads us to the visual aspect. The source material mentions the use of tools like Higgsfield.ai to create full AI-generated videos.
Right. The digital void.
The advocate in the text argues that this completes the immersion. It gives physical form to the message. It allows the artist to be everywhere across this digital void. It is not just about the audio anymore. It is about world building.
But being everywhere sounds exhausting. And honestly, it sounds dilutive. Is being everywhere a valid artistic goal? Or does it just dilute the scarcity and the presence of the performer? Part of the magic of a rock star was that you couldn't access them everywhere. They were on stage, or they were gone.
We are past the age of scarcity. We are in the age of ubiquity. The argument here is that this is augmentation, not replacement. It facilitates the execution of a vision that is cohesive, intense, and technically flawless. If the artist wants to convey a message about the fading of self, creating a visual world that represents that, which would be impossible to film with a camera in a garage, is an incredibly powerful tool.
It is powerful. Technically flawless keeps coming up. And I suppose that is where I remain stuck. Rock and roll was never about being flawless. It was about being real. But I am looking at the evidence.
And what does the evidence tell you?
The evidence tells me that these tracks sound cohesive. They sound intense. And the text mentions that resistance is fading in the face of tracks that retain human warmth.
That is the key.
It is. And if I'm being intellectually honest, I have to acknowledge that. If the result moves the listener, if the internal displacement is felt by the audience, then perhaps my definition of real is what needs to update.
That brings this to a sort of synthesis. The future of rock, as argued by the proponents of this technology, isn't less human. It is simply more powerful. The AI has successfully removed the technical limitations. It has taken the ceiling off of what a single human being can create. The artist is no longer just a player. The artist is a director of sound.
A director of sound. It is a shift. I'll acknowledge that my resistance is softening. When I read about the genuine emotional weight and the preservation of the real timbre, I can see the path forward. However, I maintain a cautious stance. It is a new instrument, yes, but instruments change the music they play. The electric guitar changed the blues. Synthesizers changed pop. This invisible architect will change rock. My worry is simply whether this new instrument might eventually overshadow the player.
A valid concern. But for now, the material presents a compelling case for the democratization of quality. The artist provides the concept, the soul, the pain, and the vision. The AI provides the sonic power to match it.
It is a brave new world. Whether that architect is a liberator or an interloper, well, that is something the listeners will have to decide for themselves.
Indeed. It seems the garage is getting a software update, whether we're ready for it or not.
Just don't lose the feedback.
We wouldn't dream of it. Thank you for joining us on The Debate.
Until next time.